H. Rune is a writer and storyteller based in the Pacific Northwest, where she says the natural beauty and rainy introspective days fuel her creativity. After turning 30, she experienced a transformative realization that she had allowed fear to shape much of her life. I think a lot of us can say that. This awakening, though, sparked in her a commitment to lead an extraordinary life within the space of an ordinary one. Welcome, H.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so interested to talk with you. And before we get started, I want to let people know there is always a video of the conversations for this podcast on YouTube. Write Like a Badass is the channel name. And they should check yours out because they can see your artwork behind you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Now, let's start out because, I mean, most of us, we write books, we publish or self-publish, we hope for readers, we hope for reviews. You don't do that. I mean, you do that, but you also have made your series of books interactive. So it's the Find Me Extraordinary Life Seeker series. And this apparently has been a 25-year passion project for you. Can you tell us all about it?
Yeah, I kind of always wanted to be a writer when I was younger and started writing little short stories or made up things. And in the year 2000, as it was, flopping over to 2000, this idea dropped into my head to write up some of my memories anonymously into five little books and to send those books out into the world, asking, hey, maybe, read this book, sign your name in the back, and then pass it on to someone else. And the idea was that these books would have this huge mission that they'd be passed from one person to the next to the next. And then one day somebody would be reading one of the books and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I know who this is. They're writing about me. And that person would bring the book back to me. And that was the idea, to figure out exactly how small this world is. Because I think it is pretty small. I mean,
This is like a version of 6 degrees of separation. It is, but have you been able to track these books?
so I do actually, so in all of my books, I'll just show because we're having some video on here. In all of my books, I have pages in the back where people can write their name and location and the date, and then they can pass this book on to somebody else. So it's not the greatest as far as marketing and selling a lot of books because people are encouraged to share, but it's a really fun idea and it makes the reader part of the story. And because I did that, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy if I actually had some trackable versions of these books? And so I did that too with the help of my beta reader, super awesome computer guru gal. And so we have an ability to track. There's 20. There's only 20 of each of the volumes out in the world that are trackable. And I think they're sitting on people's shelves, the ones that I've sent out. So get on it, people. If you got one, send it on, man. Don't
They
just have it
might
sit there.
they might like them too much. They might want to keep them and reread them.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
Now, you call yourself a fiction-ish writer, and you just said that you mentioned that these books were your memories. Is it fiction or is it memoir or is it a combination of both?
It's a combination of both. It really is. So, the spine of the story is my own experiences through my life, going from a very fearful person at age 30 to the self-realized person I've become now at nearly 57. So it's all the steps, challenges, raw, nitty-gritty, hard stuff that I've come through alongside this literary sidecar of the adventures of the book. the traveling book. So I write the characters that come into possession of the book and write, what the book inspires them to do or not. So these books are loaded with characters. They're diverse. They come from different walks of life. They each have their own experiences and backstories, and each of those people is affected in some way by this crazy unicorn of an idea of someone and the astronomical odds of it landing in their lap. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I love how ambitious you are and also anti-capitalist. I mean, by encouraging people to pass the book along rather than, buy more copies. Was it hard for you to expose your personal experiences like this to readers?
I've had a number of people ask me that, and for whatever reason, and maybe it's this time of life, I don't have this horror of shame around my stuff. I feel like all of us go through things, and it's our propensity to just say everything's great that makes us feel alone in the world. And so, me sharing my story and all of the dumb stuff I've done might help somebody feel better about their own life or their own journey. So, I it's fine. Like there's some pretty intimate stuff in here, and I'm just like, whatevs, man. That's
Put,
life.
putting it all out there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you went through is you were diagnosed with ADHD in your 50s. Is that right?
Yeah, so that'll be a big part of my book five. So there's five in the series because she writes five books, and the timelines, start from age 30. So right around, 50, that'll hit in book five, which I've it's fairly mostly done, but not really. So book four is about to come out. So yeah, finding out that I had ADHD was really interesting, and like you go through this a little bit of a grieving period, I think, when you get something like this because you start grieving the life that you could have had. You know, oh, if I would have known, maybe I would have taken this course of action instead, or maybe I would have had some help or some tools to navigate this. But, in the end, you can only really go from today onward. You can't go back and fix anything or change anything. So it's been eye-opening, and I don't personally see it as, the disability in quotation marks that others do. It's just a part of me and how my brain works, and I'm okay with it.
When you
So,
when you learned that, did you think, "Oh, that explains so much"? I've heard that from other people.
yeah, I think so. Just when you just get the diagnosis, you still have so much more research to do to understand, some of those, key points of what they are, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Oh yeah, snap. I 100% get that. And, distraction being more common in women than, the hyperactivity. Those kinds of things they're things that you come to know after you really start down this pathway of understanding yourself in a whole new way. Yeah, I like the masking. So masking is something that neurodivergent people do to fit in better in social situations, in the workplace. You become this safe person that's not weird, that doesn't become weird in a conversation. And once I had my diagnosis, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, I do it some, but I become the actress in those positions and those places. And it's like a game. Whereas before, I did it out of necessity to fit in. And so I choose the people that I'm around more carefully. I choose the people that I can be myself, you know, around, and those are the people that I mostly spend time with. So, Yeah.
It's almost like it gave you freedom.
Yeah, it really has. It really has. It's just another way that I've come to understand this path that I'm on. And yeah, like my mom has it. So, my diagnosis has led to my mom understanding that about herself, which, puts together 80 years of, well, that's why my keys were in the refrigerator.
Oh,
Not to be funny, but I mean, there's a lot of things, we do different things. And yeah, it's been eye-opening, and I actually really put it together off of TikTok. So I just started seeing all these different creators talking about this and this and this and this, and um, what it gave me in that way of finding that out about myself, and then going and getting it confirmed with my doctor was I'm in very good company. I like a lot of these people that are sharing this kind of brain, with me, and it makes you feel like you're not so alone. When you don't know that about yourself, you feel like the outsider, the weird person who's trying to navigate in a world that's just odd to them. But then you know that about yourself, and then you can be around all these people that feel the same way. And that's gigantic. So, yeah, so many things, so many lessons, so many understandings about me and my life and this crazy journey I'm on.
well, let's talk about your writing specifically. You say you've been writing for most of your life. When did you start, and what were you writing when you were younger? Was it a precursor to this or completely different things?
These were just like completely random things. I would just start something in my head. I have my first little bit of writing. I wish I would have pulled it out, but I have my first little bit of writing that was written on one of those little Mac computers that are only like, a foot tall and like 5 inches across. I don't know if you remember those,
Yes.
but yeah. So I started writing my story, and it was like the man I am, and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm 8 and I'm writing about the man I am, and having this man, having left his homestead, and his mother who's crying every night because he's not there, and I'm like, what is that? And I don't know. And so I haven't I would start things, as is typical. I would start things and maybe not finish them. And I have about 8 pages of that story, and then I'd start something else. And what happened to me, and I think what happens to a lot of us creatives, is I didn't have the support to I didn't have anybody saying go for it. Just take the brakes off and just go in that direction. I had a lot of people going, "Hey, maybe have a plan B. Hey, maybe don't try so hard at that or give up." Like, "Oh, it's hard now, give up." Was a big one, from my father specifically. So that kind of stuff happens, and it's just whether or not it continues to live on in you, and it always did with me. So no matter how many years I'd set it aside, it would still be back there. And even this story, my series, it just waited for me. It absolutely waited for me, and I just continued. Luckily, I've always been a journaler, so I continued with my journals, and so that became the fodder that went into the books, because I could read a journal entry and go right back to that moment, that feeling, that, angst of that section of my life, and then write about it and then get it out. So,
I had Lori Kirk on the podcast a little while back. She's written a brilliant psychological thriller called Baby Marvin, and she said something that I am going to, I don't know, put on a poster. Your dreams never die, they just wait for you to catch up to them. I love
mhm.
that. And it sounds something like that's what happened with you, that you arrived at the kind of writing you were meant to do when you were meant to do it. Is that maybe the case?
Yeah, I think it really is. I don't think I would have had the depth of the story back in my 30s. I didn't have enough life experience at the time, and some people do, and I just don't think that I did at that time. So I had to learn more stuff. I had to go through more stuff in order to have, the rawness and the the junk. I had to go through some junk in order to have this experience to be able to put it down on paper.
And it sounds like you're very, and I am going to do some reading too, but it sounds like you're extremely honest. I think in book three, you're talking about the character still having a dumpster fire of a life. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's this series captures it's like 30 years. It's about 30 years time. And, the author is struggling in relationships and she's having, she loses her business. There's a bankruptcy. There's all the hard stuff, that people think of, when it comes to life. So there's a lot in these books that is real. A lot of people bought houses in 2008 or started a business in 2008 and just tanked.
Oh,
So much of this book is just really relatable, I think, to people, like Gen X and above, because, people like my mom, she and I have a lot of readers in their late 70s and 80s because they remember seeing their kids go through these things. So, it's very relatable. There's a lot of themes of, motherhood and maybe not feeling good enough, or setting aside your own dreams and the support and care and nurturing of your children, your parents, all these different things, that women kind of deal with throughout their lives.
are your readers mainly women?
I would say they are, but the men that read it have a really much better understanding about their partners if they're married, or their wives or their sisters or their mothers. I had one person tell me it was like an invitation into the woman's brain. So
What a
yeah,
great statement.
yeah. So it's
Wow.
like if you care to try and understand more the perspective of your female partner, that's kind of gigantic. It could be a game changer.
So men, be open to this series. Uh, I will say that your character and the experiences they go through are resonating with a lot of readers. One said, I can't get enough of this series. Another called it unique and enjoyable. In spite of the fact that, as you said, the characters go through some things that are not pleasant. So
Mhm.
how do you, I know you must love reviews like that, but are you happy with the readership that you've attracted?
I mean, I would like to find more people. I feel like what these books really are is um I want to coin it edutainment, because these books have so many lessons in them that I think people could really benefit from, because not only am I experiencing these things, but I'm also putting in the resource that came at the exact moment that I needed. So, if you've ever just had a problem and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do now, and then suddenly, boink, here comes the answer, or here comes the book or the resource or the person that needed to say exactly what you needed to hear that day. That's what these books are filled with. So I'm not just having a problem and letting somebody hang out there with it. We're having a solution together, and you're reading it in the form of entertainment.
You do something that I've never seen an author do before. You have on your website ways for readers to follow the individual stories of characters. I think
Mm.
you send newsletters, so you have these offshoots from the books. Is that correct? Explain that. It sounds
Yeah.
fascinating.
So the offshoots, that I call them after stories, because because my books are they're not they're not all the same character throughout the book. Because the book gets passed along, there's a progression from one character to the next, to the next, to the next. So the experience of the character moves from one person to the next. And so maybe the book gets passed along before that character has a resolution of some kind. And so I don't like that. That's not nice to people to just leave them hanging with this character that suddenly they've grown fond of or hate, whatever. And so I started writing these after stories as a wrap up to have some resolution for the readers. And I did it a lot for my mom because my mom's alive and she's one of my biggest supporters. And she's like, well, what happened to so and so? And I'm like, not my problem, but also
It
I'm
is
not
your problem.
mean.
You're the
I'm
writer.
I'm not that mean. So yeah. So I'm doing after stories. I feel like my series would be ripe for, fan fiction because these are fully put together characters that could have their own whole series, just with their experiences.
I love that because there's been so many times I've read a good book and I'm like, oh, what happens to these characters after this book is ended? And I
Yeah.
never get to find out. So you are doing a real service for people who've gotten drawn into it. Now, you said there will be a fifth book in the series and that will be it. Why aren't you just going to keep writing on as you keep living on?
Well, so this series, I started with the author sending 5 books, and so 5 books is the magic number of that we would follow a traveling book. And so I kind of nipped it at 5. But, I'm not against writing more from these characters, but I also have other ideas. I have other completely separate standalone books that I want to write. And, as I'm in my near late 50s now, I have stuff to say. And so I don't just want to be caught up only in this series. I want this series to have its life and then be free and walk the planet and do what it's going to do. And I have other stuff to say. So, but
That
I
was
mean, I
good.
have gobs of after stories to write because I have probably near 20 characters in each book. So, yeah.
Do you have a day job or are you able to write full time?
I am very fortunate in that I have a part-time job that has a good hourly, and I work part-time and then I write. But honestly, I was thinking this morning, I spend more time just, trying to market and doing the author stuff than I do writing anymore. And I miss it. I miss it desperately. Just sitting down and just, hands on the keys and just go. And I need to find that time. And I actually think it might be at 5 o'clock in the morning is what's going to happen. And that sucks.
Are your
So,
books self-published?
yes, I am self-published. I queried my buns off, really. And what I think, and people can get mad, but this is my opinion. I believe that agents and like our entertainment industry is very invested in just reproducing old things. So, I mean, think about how many Spider-Man movies there are.
Ah, yeah.
It's
I'm
like, let's
over it.
have an original thought, okay? And so, since my books are basically half memoir, half fiction, that's not a genre that an agent can easily sell. So I never found a partner in this crazy venture that I had. And so I kind of was a sequence of events. It will be in book 5, but it was I'm entering this contest. If I don't win this contest, you know, I'm on my way. And I entered the contest, and while I was waiting, I popped into a YouTube video, and it was this woman, it was a TED Talk, and she was talking about green lighting herself. And I have to go back and find it. But she's like, green light yourself. And it was like, you know, I'm waiting and then green light yourself. And then I didn't win the contest. Screw it. I'm doing this. I've figured everything else out in my whole life. I've built websites, I've done, logos. I'll figure it out. So I figured it out, Maureen. I just figured it out.
And you retain complete creative control over what you've written in
Yes.
self-publishing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, even the title of my book, Find Me, other people are using that. But it was like I had that name from the year 2000.
Ah,
So I can't let go of that name just because other people started using it, you know.
no, there are a
So
lot of duplicate titles out there.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can really even have an original title anymore. It seems like it's getting really crowded.
Now, you mentioned how much effort and time you have to put into promoting it, and we are all up against that. Whether you've traditionally published or self-published, it's there.
Hmm. Yeah.
How do you do it? How do you bring your books to the attention of readers?
Um, I can't say I do it that great.
I didn't ask you how good you were at it
I
because none
I
of us are.
yeah, so like I'll tell you kind of what I do, but don't maybe copy me because, so far so far. Um I'm I stream of consciousness a lot on my videos. I say what I'm thinking. I'm all over the place as far as what I do, and that's partly because I'm all over the place as a person. I have a lot of different interests. Right now, I'm completely into my spiritual development, and so some of the videos that I put on there have to do with that, whether it's book related or not. My book specific videos don't seem to get a ton of traction, so it's like, all right, well, if I'm talking to the void, I might as well say what I want to say, you know? I also dance in my kitchen. I do that fairly often, at least once a week. Do I do that? And sometimes in costumes.
Oh, I love that. Wow.
Because why not?
And
You
you're an
know?
artist as well, HH.
Yeah, I need to do more art, and maybe this summer I'll be doing more art. So,
Now, I mentioned when I introduced you, because I read that in your bio, that the Pacific Northwest setting is really important for your creativity. Can you talk about that a bit?
we have everything here. Like I love it here so much, and I think people know that we're very lucky. We have the mountains, we have the sea, we have, the drier areas and the forest. And so I was born in California and then we moved here when I was 5. So this is really all that I know. I have traveled some, and I know what my body and uh, my likes are as far as what it is that I like to see when I look outside. I like green trees. I like the animals. I like getting out on a trail and walking, with my husband. And um I'm a tree hugger. Like I'll sit and talk to them. They're cool. All the things. So, yeah, if I'm having a rough day, I go outside. And, whether it's raining or not, I'll probably be outside.
Now, you hinted at this. Can you give us a little more of a preview about what's next for you after this series?
Um,
If you want to. Some people like to keep it close to the vest.
yeah, I think I am gonna keep it a little close because there's actually 3 projects that I'm considering, and I've put notes down on all 3, but I haven't gotten into them. So I've been kind of waiting. I've been in a place where I'm about to format my 4th book, and get that out. So the timing isn't right for me to really. I'm not ready to talk about them, and because they're not fully formed. So we'll say that.
Is your husband supportive of your writing and does he read your books?
He read the first one, and then the second one came around, and he's like, "Yeah, this is really hard for me because this was." this was me having a really hard time and being in a relationship with somebody else who wasn't really a good person to be in relationship with. And so he just really was like, I'm really, I live with you. I don't need to read the books. And, and same goes with my daughters. They haven't read my books. They're very supportive of my choice and my career. And, they'll like my videos and they're very abstractly supportive of my journey. And it brings up parts of their childhood that they don't really want to rehash at the moment.
So,
So,
not a literary criticism, but uh, trying, it's sort of a self-protective mechanism on their part.
yeah, I think so. I think so. And my oldest daughter, she's like, I think maybe when I'm a little older, I'll read it, Mom, because I she knows she knows all the lessons that came and she knows the resources because whenever I had a resource, I would share it with them and they've been with me through all my imparted wisdom, gathering. Girls, come. I'm gonna impart some wisdom. And so, yeah.
Well, you are just as interesting as I expected you to be based on your TikTok videos. Last question, HH.
Okay.
What advice would you have for other writers?
Just keep writing. Just keep writing, don't stop. Write it down. Don't listen to people tell you it's going to be hard. Yeah, it's going to be hard. You'll figure that out on your own. Just don't let it beat you down because just because that might not be their path doesn't mean it's not yours. So if you have just that spark, if you have that ability, that idea, get it down and just keep at it, just keep at it and find your people. And yeah, that's what I'd say. Don't give up.
That is a great note to end on. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I should say, and
Perfect.
your wisdom.
Oh, thanks.
We are going to put in the show notes where people can find your books and where they can connect with you on socials and your website and all that information.